Welcome back to the Customers Who Click podcast. We've got a super fascinating topic today as we take a peek into the world of behavioural economics. And to do this, I've got Ben Stirling with me. Ben's a Managing Director of Webloyalty, a company which specialises in helping e-commerce brands encourage loyal behaviour in their customers and, of course, generate more revenue. Today, Ben's going to take us through what behavioural economics is and the biases that we as marketers can use to improve conversion and retention rates. Let's hear from him now. Hi, Ben. How are you? Do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, a bit of your background and why you do what you do?
Yeah. Hi, Will. So obviously my name is Ben Stirling. I'm the Managing Director for Webloyalty. Prior to Webloyalty, I've worked in e-commerce for over 10 years. So I started in digital agencies and I primarily focused on search marketing. So I was pretty early into SEO, PPC and social media marketing. And from working in agencies, I then transitioned into Expedia. So still focusing heavily on the e-commerce side, but actually focusing on their B2B partnerships. So the distribution of their content into other travel providers so they could, if you like, generate more revenues through their own proprietary booking systems. So kind of moved from that e-commerce marketing into kind of monetization quite early. And I was at Expedia for around 5 years and then moved to Webloyalty. So at Webloyalty, we have a kind of mix of travel and retail brands primarily, and our focus is on the monetization and increasing the value of consumer interactions. So it's kind of stemmed from a performance marketing background into a real focus down on monetization and loyalty, which is where I sit today.
Can you just tell us maybe a little bit more about Webloyalty and what a day looks like for you there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Webloyalty, we provide a spectrum of revenue enhancement solutions, and we do it for e-commerce brands. So obviously we work with some brands that are primarily just online and some who are retail businesses, but also have a strong online presence. And probably the biggest thing we help them with is mitigating that cost of acquisition that consistently keeps rising against them and making it difficult to find profitability from that first transaction. Our most popular product at Webloyalty really is this acquisition tool. So we made a decision as a business many moons ago not to acquire our customers from Google because obviously we didn't like the fact that they control the playing field that we're on and can tilt it 1 degree to the left one day, 2 degrees to the right the next day, and there's not much you can do about it. So we actually acquire customers for a lot of our cashback programs that we have via B2B channels, so via the confirmation page of partners that we work with. And we offer then the consumer an ability to earn cashback on that very merchant that they just purchased with on an ongoing basis. So it's a really timely value proposition for a consumer. You know, they've just made a purchase and then we offer them a really strong incentive to join the program to get money off their future purchases with that very brand amongst about 1,600 other brands that we have in the program. So it's a very exciting place to be because obviously we're helping a lot of brands create profitability, but we're also doing a lot of really clever stuff to then establish how do we use behavioural economics and other nudges to create what we term as more loyal behaviour. So driving those consumers back to that referring brand once they're a member of a program by using a variety of different incentives.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So you offer the cashback on the products or the website that they've just bought, and actually that's your acquisition fee and kind of doesn't cost that retailer anything to actually give that discount.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we're providing, if you like, the referral fee, so the CPA for them to refer the consumer into our program. So like you say, they've generated then some revenue from that behavior happening. The consumer wins because then the consumer is provided a reward that we would fund that again equates up to our acquisition cost. So we typically provide anything between like £16.87 to their next purchase with that consumer. And then once they're a member of the program, they'll always be getting kind of 10% back off that referring retailer. So if you are a regular shopper at somewhere like Argos, then if you join the program, you're obviously going to get that consistent benefit over and over. And it's quite a powerful combination because what we're able then to do is to help drive frequency and increase the average order values. Because typically what we see is when someone gets a discount for a product, they're likely to spend more. And then if we do that with more timely seasonal campaigns, we're able to increase the frequency as well. So it has a real benefit for them, not only when they refer consumers into the program, but then through all the mechanisms and loyal behaviors that we create in the background to drive them back more frequently and at a higher value.
Okay, yes, well, sounds great, doesn't it? So you mentioned behavioural economics, which is kind of what we're here to talk about today. Tell us a bit about that. What is it? Why should businesses and marketers take note of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I should start by clarifying that I am not the scientist behind the research, but obviously we invest a great deal in this area. Given, like my earlier point, we want to understand consumer behaviour at the highest level in order to make sure that we continue to create incentives that have a great appeal. And so, we as a business work with, I think it's circa 10,000 online companies when you add in all the companies within our cashback programs. So really, we invested in this report with London Economics to establish what are the kind of really common conversion and retention biases that we see. And the report was really, really fascinating. And it's the science behind, if you like, consumer behavior. So, behavioral economics really uses psychological experimentation to just develop theories about human decision making. And behavioral economics as an industry is trying to change the way economists really think about people's perception and what they deem to be valuable. And what we noticed is that there was quite a lot of work done in retail or in, if you like, offline or in-store, but there was very little done on e-commerce, certainly not very much done in a comprehensive format in one place. So we thought the report would add a lot of value, not just for our business, but for others as well. So we created this report that we have, like I say, done in conjunction with London Economics. And it really looks at the widely adopted traits within e-commerce. And we've got an example that we can go through of some of the, if you like, 6 most commonly used traits for conversion, and then the 6 most commonly used for retention. And I can give you a really quick example. Like, there's some fascinating studies that have done. There's over 200 biases if you actually Google them and look at Wikipedia. But one quick example would be what they term as 9 enders. So a lot of evidence shows that when a consumer is aged like 29, 39 or 49, that they tend to make more ambitious and extreme decisions, like running a marathon or maybe buying a Harley Davidson. And the reason why is because obviously these round numbers are more salient in society. So there's like an urge to achieve goals before they reach a certain milestone. So when you take that as an example, it's not difficult to see how this kind of behavior can immediately be applied to online and retail, and increasing the chance for you to convert new customers before they reach these certain milestones. So as you build a profile, and personalization is a very hot topic at the moment, and you can see when you understand behavioral economics why personalization can be so impactful, because then you start to apply these nudges and nuances, you can start to create really valuable behavior, not only for your business, but also then for the consumer themselves.
Yeah, so I suppose it's a really good example, the 9 enders. I can't remember exactly what I did, but when I was 29, turning 30, there was probably a few things that I went, right, I've got to get this out of the way, got to get this done, getting old now, and it's only 30. But so I suppose that would be really, really good opportunity for, like travel brands in particular, to kind of push those longer trips and say, well, it's kind of almost like it's now or never. You're turning 30, getting, obviously you wouldn't use this in the messaging, but kind of pushing that, getting on a bit, why don't you do this 6-week trip? Take a break from work, go do this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll admit something that now seems embarrassing, but like you, when I hit a certain number, I bought a Mustang. Pretty cliche, but that was a dream of mine, and I hit 40, and I thought I'm having it now. So I can validate the the theory personally. But yeah, it's interesting. So we took these nudges and these theories and we added to the report by taking the top 50 UK online retailers. That incorporates, to your example, travel businesses and retailers, to see what they adopted to encourage conversion and retention. And some of the interesting kind of additions or combining elements for things like the nudge theory. So together with testing, the London Economics was able to say there's some really interesting, what they term as nudges, these small changes that happen on a frequent basis within these categories that really lead to this type of really desirable behavior. So I can give you an example actually of some of the conversion biases that we look at in the report. If that's interesting, I can talk through some of those now.
Oh, absolutely.
I think without stating the obvious, I think we're all aware of some of the challenges in e-commerce, and a lot of that goes to probably what I mentioned at the beginning. I think it's so expensive. Acquisition costs, I think, are 5 times more than typically even retention costs for consumers. That as they can consistently go up, that's almost your one guarantee. You do have to find new ways of doing things to either get more of the traffic you pay for to convert, or more of the traffic that converts to then stay. So I'll walk through some of those conversion biases. So one of the first ones is loss aversion. And loss aversion is really kind of endorsing gains and minimizing the sense of loss for a consumer. We all know what, I think, is it fear of missing out, FOMO, and things like that. We're all aware of that as a concept, but there's some clever ways that it starts to feed its way into e-commerce. One of those is even things like offering someone a free trial. So Netflix offers a 1-month free subscription. And really what this does is helps the consumer see what they will lose if they then go and cancel. Equally, you could use this the other way around and say, if you don't act now, then this deal won't be available to you in the future. So organizations can use like trials or promotions or messaging around how, if someone acts now, then they're going to be able to get this either this great offer, or they're going to be able to get this product and they're not going to miss out. So loss aversion is the first one. And like I say, it's quite commonly used with things like subscriptions.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that a lot. Although what gets a bit annoying is when you see it used when something is clearly not actually limited. It comes up a lot in information products. People will say this PDF available for a limited time only or something, and you're kind of like, you're just saying that to try and nudge me over the line, but really, there's absolutely no reason why that's limited.
Yeah, and this is where you'll notice there's a real commonality between these biases are so interlinked. It's quite incredible. But when we get on to retention biases, there's something called social proofing, which in its most obvious term is where consumers might use something like reviews or Trustpilot. Social media is the absolute epitome at the moment of social proofing. It's about buying a product that someone else has validated or worn, and therefore you want it. But Currys, for example, uses what you're describing. They use a multitude of things, like 8 of these sold, 628 watches available, 3 left, and 100% buyer satisfaction. So, these even conversion and retention biases start to blend together. But yeah, travel and Priceline, Booking.com, they love to use these kind of nudges that push you towards making a decision.
They got into a bit of trouble recently, didn't they?
They did.
Not being entirely transparent with what they meant by, and the airlines use it as well, but things like only 1 seat available at this price.
Yes.
And well, actually, there might be another 50 seats available, but each one's priced an extra penny higher as you go. So they're kind of able to say 1 available at this price, but actually there's no real difference. And
power of margin management.
And the other, what's the other one? It's X number of 12 people are looking at this room as well.
Yes.
But it's actually, they could be looking at any date.
Yeah, absolutely. And how it affects you though. Even if it's not true, if you're booking a hotel and they say 1 room left and there's 15 people looking at it, it has a natural effect on your behavior to not want to lose it.
Yeah.
If this is the room I want, then I want it now. And we could add to that probably the good example you gave of the hotel, right? When you add a couple of other conversion biases in there, like being able to create a really simple conversion funnel, which is something that like the likes of Booking.com do very well, and make it very easier. They use what we term as present bias, which is present bias in conversion is providing immediate gains to satisfy customer needs. Klarna is exactly the epitome of this. Shop now, pay later. It's exactly the same model that Booking.com uses. It's like, we're gonna use loss aversion on you at the beginning of the funnel, and then as you get to the end, we're going to provide present bias, which is like act now, deal with it, pay later. And that's the same principle they have. So by applying multiple, biases in the conversion funnel, they're able to, what tends to happen, I find, is that they're so good at it, people book 3 hotels and then they cancel one closer to the day.
Actually, I hadn't really thought of that, but you're right. It's buy this room now or book this room now, otherwise you're going to miss out. And then once you go to the next step, it's, but don't worry about paying it, free cancellation until the day.
Yeah. And so that's just 2 of the, in the report, that's just 2 of those. That's loss aversion and present bias that they've just used incredibly effectively in their conversion funnel in order to make people make a decision. And to the point where they make it so easy, people tend to book 2 or 3 hotels. So, super powerful when you interthread these things together. And often they're all just a play on our natural human desires. And that's why they have such a powerful impact on us, because people are essentially just playing on what they know we're naturally drawn to do. Another one would be von Restorff effect. Super interesting. This is where you create memorable products by making them stand out for the rest. I think you probably experienced this. It's like if you sign for anything like a subscription, you tend to see this. So MailChimp offers different subscription products, but what they do is they highlight the best value option for you. So they call it the von Restorff effect. And I think he was a German psychologist, but it was basically saying when you highlight the best option for someone, they are more inclined to take your recommendation because it removes their indecision. So you've got, and what they do are clever things around pricing examples. So you might have those 3 options to you, the top option being highlighted, but you might have one at £30, one at 35, and then one at 39. So the increment between the other 2 is even at 5, but then the increment to the biggest best option is only 4. So that also then adds to the impression that the bigger offer is the better deal. So it really helps someone make a decision.
Yes, a lot of newspapers use that, don't they? You can have the print, print subscription for £99 a year or whatever it is. The digital subscription for £99 a year, or you can have the digital and print for £129. So you immediately think, I'm going to get, you're kind of thinking I'm getting double the value, exactly. But for only a little bit of the cost. But it's not quite like that. But you are still getting flexibility, which helps, doesn't it? Some days, on the weekends, you might want the physical paper, and on the weekdays, you might want it on your iPad, and you read it on the way into work. Absolutely.
And that goes back to probably our earlier point around the convenience. There's an associated gain in doing that. And if the incremental cost is relatively small in comparison, it's easy to outweigh that decision of taking the ultimate product that they really want you to have. And then a couple of others would be priming and anchoring, which is quite interesting. So priming and anchoring is where certain pieces of information are used to make a key point stand out more. So, for example, a really basic example might be displaying slash prices online to show a discount, so seasonal sales. So you're luring someone towards an area. So like when you land on a site, you might see, click here for all our current 50% off discounts. So you're priming someone immediately to go down a particular funnel, and then there's an expectation of what they're going to get from that. It can actually have a negative effect as well, which is quite interesting. If you think about what coupon boxes do for your buying psychology, if you don't perhaps land on a site where they've primed you to go towards a kind of sale or slash price items, and you go and you purchase something, and then you get to the checkout, particularly if the cost increases, this actual behavior increases, which is you see the coupon box and then you go, oh, hold on a minute, I don't have a coupon. And then you abandon the cart to go and find one. So priming and anchoring can do good and bad. You have to use wisely.
Yeah, and then it's a case of not only are you going to, all right, potentially you've got the drop off and they might not come back, but best case with that scenario is they find a coupon, they get £10 off or 15% off with you, but then you also pay that commission because there's the affiliate commission. I know a lot of people who, and I think I'm in favour of this as well. If you have a live coupon code that is basically available to anyone anyway, just automatically apply it. Arguably you're kind of giving away money that you didn't have to, but you kind of, you avoid the commission, which is a little bit of money, but also I think it just builds a bit of good feeling and loyalty with the customer if you've said to them, oh, don't worry, we've applied that for you.
Absolutely. And just to, I guess, if you think about reciprocity, that's one of the retention biases. That is, giving, like you say, giving someone something, and then there's this sense of kind of paying back almost. It's almost like, I don't want to call it purchasing loyalty, but it is, you give someone something, they're more inclined to do something back. And to your absolute point, to give that away arguably costs little, but what does that do for the consumer? They feel immediately like you've invested in them when you didn't probably have to. And that surprise element of it, makes you feel like, actually, I'll buy from them next time, that they looked out for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's Pizza Hut who are quite up. I think it's Pizza Hut. Better be. They're quite upfront with that. I think they have a function on their website where they're very clear that they will apply a deal if one is relevant to your basket.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you add 2 medium pizzas, a side, and a bottle of drink to your basket. If that happens to be one of their deals, it will simply just give you the discount for it.
Absolutely.
And I think they have a robot for it on their site. I think it's like really, really. I think it's the deal robot. Yeah.
I haven't seen that. Yeah, I'm a Domino's fan. I know Domino's do something similar, where, like you said, they'll automatically. I don't know if they have I don't think they have the robot. That sounds very cool. But they just apply, like you said. They will say, if you've ordered 2 things that are applicable for a deal, I believe they will auto apply it. But I know, I'm so trained as a consumer to go straight for their deals anyway. I've never done it without.
I think they are in a sector where discounts are almost expected.
Yes.
I think, well, I don't know. I would guess that a huge percentage of their sales are either a deal, one of their meal deals, or an external coupon code has been applied.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's such an interesting point because, I honestly believe that what makes consumers we're all so trained to have an expectation to get something in return for our purchase nowadays. It's almost like if you don't, you something feels wrong about the purchase. If you haven't got a deal or you haven't got something for it, like free delivery or something, you almost scratch your head and go, it feels like I booked it and it was right, but something doesn't sit with me. And amazing when people book holidays, the immediate justification they give you for, oh, we got an amazing deal. It's before they tell you where they're going or before they tell you what deal they got on it. And so it's become such an integral part, hasn't it, of making a transaction to almost ensure we receive something back for making a purchase or a decision with a brand.
Yeah, I mean, on the free shipping point, there have definitely been sites where I've got all the way through to the checkout and been shown, £4.99 delivery fee or something, and I've gone back into the website to look for their free shipping threshold.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's not there. And you think, oh, actually, have I got to pay $4.99 for this?
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. Simple change, right? A spend stretch to mitigate the cost of shipping, and probably you would put another T-shirt in or put something else in just to reach it.
Well, I think
because you're immediately doing the maths, aren't you, in your head? It's like how much more to buy the T-shirt and then to get shipping. So actually, I only paid less for the T-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the number on this now, but I did some research a few weeks ago, and there is a an additional increase in average basket value over the threshold. So, if your average order value is £100 and you set your threshold at 120, your average order value that gets free shipping tends to be more like 130, 135, or even higher. People don't just try and meet that minimum requirement to get it. They're like, oh, well, I'll just buy another pair of jeans, or they're willing to spend maybe £50 to get that free shipping, even though it saves them £4.
A smaller, relative amount. That's really interesting. Yeah,
I think maybe people view it as a bit of a waste. If I can get free shipping and there's something that I want to buy, I might as well buy it.
Absolutely, because I think that, like you say, they're probably associating it to a discount of the product that they're actually purchasing in a way that, it's very interesting. And then so there's some retention biases as well that I think are also, as we've said, so important, because obviously acquisition and making sure that people get the conversion seems to be at the forefront of everyone's agenda, and it has been, I think, for a long time. And I think that we're all aware, but probably there's always that difference between awareness and taking action around what people actually do then with retention biases. And I think so much investment goes on acquisition that actually I think retention is hopefully getting an equal share of voice now, because it's absolutely key in order to recoup that profitability. I know so many brands that are unprofitable on the first transaction with the hope that they can retain the customer, and then after second, third purchase, obviously that profitability is covering the kind of acquisition cost. There's a couple of those that I thought would be interesting. One of those was I thought I'd talk about the hot topic, personalization, but the big one. But it is, engaging the consumer by using personalized touches, and it doesn't have to be this big. In my mind, it doesn't have to be this big machine learning algorithm behind the back. It can be as simple as eBay. Right? eBay greets you with your name when you join. Hi, Ben, when I sign into eBay. But that's a very simple start to a level of personalization. And I do think that consumers really want to just have recognition. I think loyalty and all of these areas is made up of some very simple things, which is receiving value and feeling valued. And a simple way to have someone feel valued is to recognize who they are and to call them by their name.
Just an interesting point on that. I actually, I tell a lot of people that personalization isn't about stuff like first names anymore because it's so basic. But actually what I'm talking about is emails there. I think in an email, there's a basic expectation that if you've got any sort of copy in your email, it's going to start with your name. But on a website, I think it does make a massive difference when you're welcomed by your name, because not as many companies do it.
No, and look at who does. Amazon and eBay, right? It's like, the big, because the minute you land there, it's like, hey, Ben, and by the way, we've just collected a load of products for you that we think you'd be interested in. Netflix, classic example, because you watched this, we think you'd like this. And that's where it starts going deeper and deeper, and you start to learn. I think some of the interesting stuff around personalization is as people move away from, I think there's a couple of flaws sometimes where people, if you don't have enough products, creating personalization is very difficult because, if there's only 5 things, it's like, why do you get it in red as well as yellow?
So you mentioned Netflix there. What's interesting is that, so Netflix removed the reviews from the service, a couple of years ago, probably. And I wonder if I'd never really thought about it, but actually I wonder if it's because they want to be able to recommend content to people based on what they think you would like. But if they do that and you look at it and you see that it's only 2-star or 3-star, you might not watch it. And if you see all that, we all know that a lot of comedy films tend to score lower, on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes and all that. But, even though people like them, but if you went into, if they recommended you a film and then you open up Netflix and it's got 3-star or whatever, you might go, well, actually I'll find something else. But they're pretty confident you're going to like it. Normally reviews are really 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 important for businesses, but Well, I suppose it is for Netflix, and that's why they've made the decision to actually remove them, because they make too much impact.
I think that's a really, really good observation. That kind of sits in what we talked about, which is a retention bias, which is social proofing.
Yeah.
So, it's like, because like you say, what they're doing is trying to get a unique consumer experience for you and what you're actually interested in. But if you're interested in something that everyone has panned, that's going to socially impact your decision to watch it, because even though it's like going back to the schoolyard, isn't it? Even, if everyone is mocking you for doing something, you're not going to do that behavior anymore. Even if you're sat in your living room, no one can see you. If everyone says this is the worst movie ever, it's going to impact your choice. So I think you're probably right. I never thought about that either, but I'm sure that's what it will be, because their goal is to move towards a more tailored consumer experience, and tailored means not comparing you to people that perhaps are nothing like you.
Yeah, exactly, definitely.
Another one I like is we touched on, but so I won't go to that. But it was scarcity bias. That was only 4 items left in stock. ASOS loved that one. Countdown timers. Oh, those are great nudges. One of my favorite, and this is why I mention it, is because I loved this. Scarcity was really apparent given obviously the COVID situation, because where people tend to have a greater lean on scarcity when it sits within those everyday products that they need, like those typical normal consumer goods. And so there were some brilliant examples of scarcity bias where you went on eBay and they had a toilet roll available for $1 million USD. And the description just said soft and comfortable. And I was like, that's just brilliant, because that epitomizes this very retention bias, which is that when those common things that we actually probably hold little value on in general terms, when they become scarce, their value increases exponentially.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, in that case, it's probably it's just someone taking the piss a little bit.
Of course.
But it's great for eBay.
Maybe someone bought it. Exactly.
Maybe.
It'd be the best deal they ever did.
I mean, I know I've seen. So we put our school up for sale once, and I think it got bids of like £50,000 or something before eBay took it down. It's just, because I don't know if it's changed. I don't use eBay that much anymore, but you used to be able to just put anything on there. In fact, it was around the time when just ridiculous stuff was popping up. Pretty sure a country or two have popped up on there at some point. And I reckon eBay leave it there long enough for it to get some attention, and then take it down and say, yeah, it's not a genuine listing, so we can't have that.
I'm afraid the UK is not for sale, even though that's a good price. Another one that I like as well, and I like, it's funny because you always remember the ones well that you are so easily influenced by. And I didn't realize this one until I thought of an app that I use a lot, which is I use when in town and when working, not at home. I use the Nez app, which is a fantastic app, which I love because it just gives me all these offers and deals for local restaurants around where I work, right? So it has a everyday practical use to me, which has a value, but then they do gamification and rewards. And it's really great because, they are not giving me often an actual offer. So they're not giving me, you can earn up to getting like 5%, 10% or a deal off some food. But ultimately what they're leaning on is this kind of goal gradient effect is the term for the buyers. And it's bringing out a consumer's competitive streak to motivate them. So point systems do this a lot with like British Airways and things, but Nez uses it in a different way. They have a whole load of points that you earn. And each time you earn points for transacting at one of the local stores that they've got an offer running with, you move up to the next level. And the levels are just very like childish things like hot potatoes, sour lemon and all of this kind of stuff, lean bean and stuff. But in our office, it became a competition. And exactly that's what it was, a competition. People were more not comparing the discount or the offer they got, they were comparing the childish badge status that we each had on the app. So the power of kind of great, what they term as the goal gradient effect is I think often quite underestimated, and it is bringing out that consumer's competitive streak to reach a certain level. You'll know it if you travel a lot and you get people that consistently talk about what tier they're on and what the best tiers are and which airline gives them the best. It's all about that. It's a status thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's quite an interesting one.
Yeah, everyone wants to be on that that one level up. Even if it's
absolutely.
just one.
Then,
I mean, obviously people want to get to the top, but obviously you have to be one level up above whoever you're talking to, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so true, because you can be really proud of the status you get to until you meet someone on the next status, and then immediately you change the conversation. It's like, I don't hear about their status anymore. It's all they talk about.
Yeah, free upgrades? I don't care. Don't care. Didn't want them anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Can't find now anyway. And then a couple of others that I think are interesting on retention. We talked about reciprocity. That was obviously in the earlier example. And then consistency bias is quite interesting. So this is consumers striving to make consistent behavior. So, there's almost like this whole individual study on how consumers strive to make future behavior match past behavior. We like to prove consistency in what we believe in what we stand for, and everything. And some brands leverage this in a certain way in order to build, like, if you like, a retention and an ongoing conversation with their consumers. So, brands should often should think about how they can incorporate, how do we, if we're creatures of habit and we strive to be consistent, what type of behaviors and nudges and beliefs can you add into your product or your communication to provide that consistency for them, so that they can feel like, it aligns with what they do, going to the gym every Friday or whatever that may be, that they hold to a high value. How do you align with that? And if you can align with that consistent behavior, you're going to have a loyal customer for life.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of gyms, the one I used to go to at work, they would email me if I hadn't been in the gym for about even just 3-4 days. It wasn't too long, but they obviously know that I went quite frequently. So I don't know if it's literally just a case that they've set it to say email anyone who's not attended the gym for 4 days, or whether they base it off my frequency of attendance. They obviously know I'm not someone who's going to cancel because of that reminder. Not someone who goes, oh, actually, yeah, I never use the gym, I'm never in there, so I'm going to cancel it. It actually nudges me to go, oh yeah, I should probably book a class or something. Yeah, you reminded me I'm not doing my exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have that gym membership that we wish we used more, and it's interesting that, like you say, that's almost an alignment with a behavior that you want, but that you haven't yet achieved, isn't it? And it's like, but you want to get to that point, so you keep the membership because it's consistent with where you feel you want to be or you should be. I cancelled mine as soon as we hit COVID. I knew that was, if I wasn't going before, I wasn't going to be going then.
Yeah, I mean, they must have struggled, I think. Although a lot of them, I know a lot have done online classes and things. I don't know how many of them have kind of given discounts on memberships, or whether they're kind of saying we're going to do online stuff, so we're not going to touch on the subject of your membership too much. We're just going to make sure we're providing some sort of content and value so you can exercise if you need to. Some people will cancel, some people will ask about discounts, refunds, but if they're still there, still offering something to the customer, there's a good chance people won't cancel. And then I guess there's the whole idea of, we know you're a struggling business in these times. I don't mind paying. If you're giving me something to do, I don't mind paying my membership to get that. And if it means you're still there when I do come back.
No, I agree totally. I think that interestingly plays into the reciprocity thing, doesn't it? I almost think if I was a personal trainer now, I would be giving all my clients, even if it was free, I would be putting out to them, and hopefully they'll be paying for the service. But I would be still putting out, if I was a gym, all of the advice and things that exercising people can do at home, because that would be the reciprocity piece. It's like, I am there for you, even if you can't use my service, even if you pause your membership, because we've offered that as a solution to this current situation. If I am with you and I'm providing you value through a time when it's only going to be perceived as a reward or as an addition, and not a chargeable service, then I think that's great example of reciprocity, because then you're going to go straight back to your trainer afterwards and be like, I really appreciated all the videos you gave me. Let's get back in when I'm allowed back out again. I think, you can really play on those types of retention biases just by, like you say, adding value first.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other retention on the retention side?
No, I think we've gone through all of them actually. There was kind of 6 core ones, mainly personalization, social proofing, scarcity, goal gradient effect, reciprocity, and then consistency. So people being consistent with behavior.
Okay, great. So we've had a bunch of great examples on how businesses are doing it or should do it. But are there any big or common mistakes you see when people are actually, when companies are attempting to use these sort of tactics?
So I don't think any online retailer, certainly when we did our evaluation of the top 50, no one retailer fully adopts behavioural informed techniques. And I think that, what that means is there's plenty of opportunity for people to do it better. I think, taking an approach of, how does this sit for my industry, and how does this sit for my type of consumer, and how does this sit with my type of product is the key thing. It doesn't mean everyone should do all, but there's such a neat, like we touched on with the Priceline or Booking.com example, there's such a neat tie-in for some of these biases that if you can just find out and test and learn what are those that work really well for your type of product that make a significant then uptick on your ability to convert and retain, I think that's the way to do it. I think mistakes would probably be just like some of the examples that you highlighted, and that would ultimately be brands that overutilize in a, what I might term as clumsy effort, some of these biases where they put massive great signs up saying 2 left, 4 left, 5 left, depending on if you refresh the page. That's doing nothing for your credibility. And I think that's probably some of the mistakes, are where people are just really club hammer with this stuff. Need to add a little bit of grace.
Yeah. So when people are just being a bit obvious with what they're doing, rather than just trying to build it in, well, like you said earlier, it's like a nudge. It should always
be a very
nudge.
Subtle nudge.
Rather than massive banner, 1 left.
Absolutely.
It and it even looks like a static banner, so it's probably not genuine.
And if you think about exactly that example, the same situation, but if you're selling a t-shirt and you've spent a bit of time on the page, or it's your second visit there, and they go, Will's back again, he likes this t-shirt, sending you 15 messages saying 20 people are looking at it now, it might have an effect. But maybe just sending one message that says, even better, add personalization with this as well. It's like, Will, we can see you like the t-shirt. We've only got 3 left in stock. So, we want you to have it, type thing. A more personalized approach to the same type of message is probably going to have a significantly greater impact than just hammering a message at someone like a bit of a scattergun approach.
Yeah. So it's all about, combining these behaviors with the data that you've got to nudge people in a relevant manner to them. Absolutely.
That might be then, they might be going, Will's back again. He needs to view this at least 5 times before he purchases. So we'll leave him this time. It's personalization, isn't it? It's like, we'll wait till he's back the next time before we give these messages.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it works, doesn't it? Just because I check out a website every day or every few days doesn't mean I want to purchase. It just means, it's kind of on my mind, but, it might be, you could be clever about it and say, well, he views it every month. He comes on this website 4 times throughout the month, and it's always the one at payday when he makes the purchase. So let's not bother emailing him throughout the month, or give him some valuable content or whatever, but give him a little nudge, on payday or the day before, just to say, we've only got 1 left. We're holding 1 for you, or click here to hold it for 24
What an
hours.
amazing message, though, if they did, right? If you were able to receive messages that we only have 1 left and we've held it for you. I mean, I'm obviously operationally it's got to be achievable, but that as a message, if someone has saved something, put it in their basket or something like that, it has a significant, I think that starts to touch on a lot more personal, personalization than a lot of other tactics. But we see six times someone needs to see the banner to at least have, the ability to click through. So what does that mean how does that change what you serve the first 6 times versus to what you serve on the 6th? It's like fairly straightforward, but actually you can subtly change then the behavior, because if, to your point, if it's coming to the end of the month and I want you to buy the t-shirt, then maybe when it gets, and you've only been 5 times, then maybe I do want to send you an email or a nudge to get you back on the site, just to reach that kind of 6th time to get you to do the conversion. So it all interlinks so tightly. It becomes this kind of woven experience.
I guess the wrong way of doing that is we need someone to see this banner or this advert 6-7 times. So let's follow them around the web and fill every sort of every banner ad opportunity with our message. Because within 20 minutes they'll be back going, actually, do you know what? I do want to make that purchase.
Particularly like those when I've already bought it as well.
Amazon. I think I was telling you this the other day. By my keyboard, I bought this Bluetooth keyboard, and then twice since I've purchased the keyboard, they've recommended me a keyboard.
That's from them as well, I'm sure.
I don't really understand it. The purchase is on my account. It's done. I don't need more Bluetooth keyboards. Yeah,
because you bought this, we're recommending 4 other ones for you. No, I just needed the one.
Hopefully it'll last a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think will be the big trends in behavioural economics, and particularly with e-commerce, obviously, over the next kind of 12, 18 months? Or I suppose actually, just to add to that question, given the pandemic we've had, which has obviously massively changed a lot of shopping behaviour, how do you think that will impact things as well?
So I think some of the interesting stats that we've been looking at are that, we work with some major supermarkets, and so obviously you can see the growth that they've had through this current period. And I actually hope that from a perspective of a consumer perspective, that stays, because I think what we've seen is a large amount of people have had to adopt online. That stems from banking to purchasing groceries. And I think that will have a knock-on effect. I think that those consumers then will now be more familiar and consistently purchase online. I think as humans, we are natural creatures of habit. And, I think the technology has been way further ahead than our actual physical adoption of it. And so what I expect to see and would like to see is that actually, as this now comes through the other side, and as we are then removing the restrictions about what we're able to do physically, we still actually maintain some of these behaviors that have become more efficient, have allowed businesses to perhaps meet your needs in different ways, and have actually become more efficient. Certainly online shopping, one of the quick examples I would say that I've seen that I love is that we've had B2B food providers in our local area that have then turned their hand to being able to deliver locally fresh meat produce that they would normally provide restaurants. And we've been able to get that from them. And the quality is fantastic, considerably better than what I get at the supermarket. So will I continue to purchase from them? Absolutely. And so those behaviors, I think, I'd like to see more of, it's almost incorporating in that example, the return of the old high street, the butcher, the baker. I'd like to see more of those businesses that have been able to reach more consumers continue to do so. And there's a number of brands that do that local produce at scale. And I hope that they consistently will see that growth out the back as well.
It'd be interesting on those, because obviously once things go back to normal and their B2B side opens up again, will they be able to cater for the B2C side?
Absolutely.
And hopefully they'll stick with it. And, some of them may view it as an opportunity to say, right, well, we'll focus on the B2B as our core because they're, reliable bulk purchases. But anytime we've got, spare produce or whatever, let's promote it out to the B2C base and we'll get rid of it there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's pretty, in today's world, it's pretty easy to expand your business and certainly digitize it. Take, for example, the delivery of this business. Well, you could immediately outsource that, right? If you've got a proximity to a city, even easier, right? You can just do a partnership with Deliveroo or with Just Eat or someone like that in order to then provide distribution, which is probably the thing that they don't have the resource for. So I think that those partnerships have been fantastic to see, and see more of those would enable these businesses to continue to do and reach the audience and serve the audience that they've already now found. But yeah, I think when we did our research, we certainly found that, like I say, the majority of the top 50 UKers just use a mix of different strategies, and I think small nudges, and I think testing more of those and seeing more of these natural human behaviours as part of the e-commerce channel is definitely going to be the big trend, and convenience is key. Like you only have to look at fintechs and offers. We do a lot with offers, and having offers easily accessible, card linking offers, so you can just go into stores. I think more and more that trend of consumers expecting something in return doesn't have to mean that the merchant provides the discount. There's a multitude of ways of creating incentives, like we've talked about, through goal gradients and motivating people to competitiveness, that can enable you to still communicate with your consumer, even if they're not purchasing and buying your product. And I think that's a wonderful thing that I'd like to see more brands do. Banks, for example, only communicate typically about banking, right? So, interest rate changes, or statement updates, or changes to your privacy policy, and it's like that's not a relationship. That's just they're serving the basic needs of what you're getting, the product, which is the banking. And I think when they can start to incorporate more incentives, more things that allow them to create consistent communication with a customer. So let's just use the example of providing offers or incentives or a reward program. That type of ability allows them to stay with the consumer the 99% of the time that they're transacting on other things, not just talking or thinking about banking. And that means they can have a conversation, they can have more personalization, they can do more social proofing, they can add in all of these different elements, because they can just increase their ability to communicate. And that means that then if they're associating themselves to those types of rewards and benefits, they're building their own brand, the kind of reciprocity in their own brand association with that consumer, even if it's not directly their own product. So I do think there's a real opportunity for brands to do more with different brands, with different loyalty and engagement programs, to essentially get a better conversation going, and to have a more consistent conversation with those consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of kind of changing how we do loyalty schemes, because generally people view a loyalty scheme as spend £1, get a point.
Yes.
And then once you get a certain number of points, you get a discount. And it's not only is it boring and unengaging for the consumer, but at the points level we're talking to get the discount, you're basically just giving someone who purchases anyway a discount.
Yes.
And that's not really...
there's a term, isn't there? Surprise and delight, which I think is a great term for loyalty. It's like, if you're like Vodafone's very neither. If you've got a program, and obviously they had to adapt the program with travel and some of the offers that were to do with entertainment theatre, but then putting in offers like around, we want to treat you to something that you are accessible to. And I always like the example, which obviously at the moment, sadly, you can't get, but it's like, things like providing a free sausage roll at Greggs or a free coffee. It's like providing you with a reward that actually has a high perceived value to you. And it isn't, then it becomes less £1 for £1. It's like, if the coffee is sent to me when I'm walking past a Starbucks or I'm walking past Costa, and it's timely and it's relevant because they know I purchased from there anyway, then that has a hugely high perceived value for me. And it doesn't matter if it costs £1 or if it costs, the £5. It's the relevance it has to me and the perceived value I put on it that means I go, wow, I love being a part of this program. It's fantastic. I know exactly what I want when I want it. And it's small stuff, but it means something.
Yeah, but on the surprise and delight, it doesn't actually have to be something of value either, I don't think. When I was at Readly, we used to send out handwritten postcards to subscribers in their first paid month. And actually we found, the increase in engagement was really, really surprising. We thought people would just, appreciate the gesture. And that it might, we might be able to detect a long-term impact on it or on retention or something. But no, the number of magazines they read within the app would double. They would use an extra device, activate their account on an extra device, and the churn in that first month dropped quite noticeably. And this was as opposed to doing it before they paid, which had almost no impact. So it was on the people who made their first purchase. Literally just a handwritten postcard which said, thanks for subscribing. If you've got any questions, just get in touch. And just something like that has such a big impact on people because, it's that surprise and delight thing. Just makes, it gives people a little positive feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love things like you say that you can add value without having it come at a cost. Slightly different example, but I just saw on TV the other day, I loved the idea that L'Oreal has given, they've created, I think, their app now where you can look into your phone, obviously in the app, and then it puts the makeup on you. And I just think it's a great way of building an engagement with a consumer. It doesn't cost them anything in the sense of they're not having to give anything away, but they're just building a closer engagement with the customer. And I'm sure as that evolves over time, they can add some fun gamification factors and personalization to it that takes that type of thing to a whole nother level. And like you said, it hasn't cost them a product, or they haven't given anything away, but yet it's actually achieving considerable amounts for the consumer.
Yeah, I imagine it cost them quite a bit to build, but
sure.
It hasn't. It's a big purchase and expense and some ongoing maintenance, but the extra value from that is going to be huge. You haven't spent it on just acquiring a limited number of people or something.
Exactly.
I actually came across a jewelry site a couple of weeks ago where I think it was just on the watch pages. They actually had an arm on the screen with the watch on it, and you could pick the skin tone.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was really, really cool. So you could actually kind of get a rough idea of what this watch would look like on your arm.
Yeah.
Which I think is fantastic because, you might go, I really like watches that have a brown leather strap. And then you kind of look at the image of it and you go, actually, maybe the black leather one looks better.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, maybe you go in store to actually try it on and stuff. But, it's that little bit of extra engagement, that little extra touch point I've never seen that before on a jewelry site anyway. Not that I visit many jewelry sites, but yeah. Anyway,
you're right.
Do you have any pet peeves when it comes to marketing, either as a marketer or consumer?
Well, I spend a fair amount of time. I love being on LinkedIn. So I guess one of the things I see a lot of now, and you touched on it earlier, right, which is people just, without building any sense of value or building any form of relationship, just hit you straight out with big sales messages, and PDFs attached and this massive sales pitch within their first ever contact with you. You would never do that in like real life. It's in face-to-face communication. So I don't know, for me, it's like, why would you think that would work for you on email? Because if I don't know who you are, you've not added any previous conversation with me, we've not added any, you've not provided any value at this point. It's like, then, so there's no, reciprocity. So it's like, so why do people think that that's a good idea? And I think it's a shame, because I think with some small adjustments, there's some very powerful messaging that I see comes out on LinkedIn messaging, where people have some really valuable products, tools, technologies, but perhaps just the way they approach the conversations is that kind of, scattergun approach again, as opposed to being a little bit more thoughtful and tactical. I actually had someone send me an email the other day, which really made me laugh. This was a great sales approach. She sent me an email that said, it had the brackets and it said name, and then, and it just said name, and then it went into the cell, and then she went, only joking. So it's like she's sending me an automated email, and she hadn't even bothered to put my name in the name section. And so I thought, what a great intro, because it made me read it. But that's because I'm so used to getting those types of emails. Did I actually think, oh, here's another one? But yeah, I think that's one of them. I think people just taking a little bit more of a human approach, and don't send so many. Just target the people that are super relevant, and then send them something that's personal, and engage a little bit before you do it as well, because it'll go a long way.
Yeah, definitely. A similar thing came up in one of the previous episodes, actually. Bumping cold emails. So, doing a follow-up email, which literally just says something like, "Oh, just bumping this to see if to make sure you see it, or just in case you didn't see this."
Yes.
And you're like,
"Oh, I've had a few of those recently."
If I ignored the first email, why would you bumping it make a difference? That's yeah.
You're right. I had one this week, but it was turned, "I'm just bubbling this up to the top of your inbox." And I was like, okay, I didn't see the first one. Now I'm seeing this bubble. I'm definitely blocking it.
Yeah.
Thank you for alerting my filter.
So yeah, it's almost like the assumption is that everyone responds to every email. So you must have just missed it.
Yeah. Because I'm sure you were going to respond, right?
Yeah.
With my PDFs and 5 PowerPoints and 25 meg worth of email.
Yeah. So finally, is there a marketing channel or tactic that you would see gone, that you'd like to kill off and never see again?
I in a way, I appreciate all marketing channels, because look, they only exist because they work in some capacity or some degree. The ones that probably I find that do get me a bit, because they're kind of annoyingly good, is like clickbait articles, right? Where you see content that is really specifically around click here to find out what happens. And I don't do it, but in my brain I'm going, I would like to know what happens in that. Because those just really annoy me, because that whatever you click on, it is nothing to do with the image that they're showing. It's not going to tell you the answer to what you want to know.
Yeah.
And yet so many consumers do it, but that's how some sites drive huge volumes of traffic.
You think this is going to be such a disappointment when I click through, but I really, really want to see, just in case.
Exactly.
I think I haven't noticed it so much, as opposed to however many years ago when clickbait just exploded. But the one area where I think it is still really, really bad is sports journalism. There's always, this team makes shock decision on this signing, and it's something ridiculous, like they've offered their own player a new contract. Yeah. And you're like, well, that's not a shock. Yeah. Or actually it'll be player makes shock transfer decision, stuns own club or something, and you're thinking, all right, he's decided to leave, hasn't he? And yet he's signed a new contract. You're like, all right, great, okay, thanks for that.
And you're like, I fell for it again.
And then and clubs being linked to, especially Man United, and as a Man United fan, this annoys me a lot, getting linked with every single player in the world every transfer window.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're right. It is, especially when it hits a topic of interest you have a high level of interest in. It's like the desire to click through just to be sure that you didn't. There you go. It is. Didn't miss out on anything. That fear of missing out back again. It's like that drives that behavior. And that's, again, that's what we talked about today with conversion and retention, isn't it? It's like when you link marketing behaviors to what humans' natural behaviors and those that have a strong pull, the results are very powerful.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this has been fantastic stuff. Really, really interesting. And I'll make sure that I read the full report very soon, actually, probably over this weekend. How can people get in touch, find out more?
Well, personally, I'm always available on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn.in/IN/StirlingBen. But we have the report available. So I don't know if you can put the link. So the report's available to everyone. We've got a link for that. It's called the Digital Choice Report. I think it's like webloyalty.co.uk/digital choice report. So that's available. And so, yeah, please download that. Check out London Economics; they're fantastic. So that's probably the best way.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'll make sure there's a link on the Customers Who Click website.
Fantastic.
Cool. All right. Well, cheers, Ben.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really amazing stuff there. It's incredible how little nudges and the correct usage or even non-usage of various techniques can not only help improve conversion and retention, but also builds customer engagement and loyalty for a brand. On the conversion side, you've got biases such as loss aversion, priming and anchoring, and the von Restorff effect, which you'll all know most commonly from subscription price plans. While key biases for retention include social proof, consistency, and personalization. If you want to learn more, feel free to reach out to Ben on LinkedIn, and you'll find a link to their report on this episode's page on customerswhoclick.com. Please, if you've enjoyed this as much as I have, do rate the podcast and subscribe on the website. And as usual, if you've got any questions, send them over to will@customerswhoclick.com. I do respond to everyone as quickly as I can. I know I said this last time, but in the next episode of Customers Who Click, I'll be speaking with Pete Dunn of Mad Gorilla Media about sales and copywriting. But until then, keep those customers clicking.